All right, well, welcome everyone. My name is Jan Lehman and welcome to our webinar series. If you are new to our series, just know we've been doing this for about 3 years. And so we've got a bunch of past webinars built up. I'll introduce you to a couple of our team members that are on the call. We have Nancy Krushke, who is our business application expert in Microsoft 365. And then Arnie Howes, who is managing the doorbells and the dings and everybody entering, is our business process improvement guru and also Microsoft 365 expert. If you've not attended our webinar before, just know we tend to cover content first, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. But we'd love it if you start entering questions directly into the chat right at the beginning, and we'll be kind of monitoring them and deciding when we'll pose the questions to Arnie. But we typically hold some of the questions to the end. So today the topic is managing projects in EOS using Microsoft 365. And I should clarify, the system that we built out really can be used for any operating system or accountability system. We are just huge fans of EOS. And so we use that in the explanation here. We're in Minnesota and EOS started in Minnesota. And so anyway, we thought it'd be great to kind of tie it back to an operating system that many people know and love. So, and then next month, we're going to be doing a new topic, and I'm going to enter a bunch of links into the chat. Next month, we'll be doing cost-effective work management solutions using Microsoft 365. So that's another solution we find we're building out for a lot of our clients. So we thought we'd put together a webinar on that particular topic. I just entered a bunch of links in the chat. You get the links to the past recordings, a link to sign up for our newsletter, and then you'll know about future webinars coming out. We have some case studies in there. If you'd rather just subscribe directly to our YouTube channel, you can click that link. And then my book is actually a link out there as well for that one. So that's what we have coming up next. So I'm going to do a couple slides and then turn over to Arnie. So we are big fans of Microsoft 365, but where it really starts is what we're seeing as productivity consultants are some of the productivity issues, business issues that companies are running into, such as this list here. So typically we'll have clients complain about organization, communication, all the different things. And we find ourselves often saying, well, Microsoft 365 can solve that or improve that and build out a solution for our clients. Coming into the post-pandemic world, we've got a lot of remote and then hybrid work solutions. Microsoft 365 becomes even more important. You want your data in the cloud. You want everybody to be able to access anything from any device. And so it's become a more pertinent conversation in the last couple of years for sure. Each time we do the webinar, we sort of showcase a case study that we've done with the client. So this is one with the YMCA. So their challenge was all around communication, organization of data, internal project management, and in particular, lost knowledge when they were having staff turnover. So those were the challenges they were faced with. And we built out a solution. Arnie built out a solution, as a matter of fact, in Microsoft 365. And at this point, what it's really helping with is separating the home and work communication. So there's pretty clear when do you use, texting versus chat, internal chat. So clarifying what tools you use for communication is an important thing all companies need to iron out. We were able to centralize all the location and information they needed in a central spot that allowed them to go paperless. And one of the best things is it's streamlining the way when they onboard new team members. When we do a case study, we always try and track a specific ROI or a specific tangible number. And one of the ones that was easy to calculate with the YMCA was now they're saving months every time they onboard a new hire. So that one in and of itself makes it worth the project. So thanks for listening to that. And Arnie, I think you're up.
All right. Folks, I've had a crazy morning, had to change rooms at the last moment. I really am not in Philadelphia at Independence Hall, but the room I had to move into has a boring white background, and I figured this was a nicer background. So for what it's worth, I'm in Philadelphia virtually. So we're going to talk a little bit about managing projects in EOS with 365. Jan mentioned we're a huge fan of both EOS and Microsoft 365, and Microsoft 365 is just made for a lot of stuff. And when I first read the traction book a year ago, I thought, oh my gosh, this is the stuff that I've wished managers would do for so long. And Microsoft just fits it so well. So whether you use EOS or not, And I've consulted managers, executives for way over 20 years. And every one of them has to have a vision and mission and goals and metrics and scorecards and all the buzzwords that you often play office bingo with when you're in a high level strategic meeting. I'm going to admit someone else here. But what I noticed through all the years was those things were often kept out of sight, out of mind. And so they weren't really talked about unless it was an annual planning meeting. So 365 really comes in handy for getting that stuff out in front of everyone who needs to see it. But what is EOS? I first read the book a year and a half ago or so and just thought, oh my gosh, this is great. It ties everything together. So I became a huge fan immediately. I think I've read it like 4 times. But it was talking about a lot of the stuff that I have helped managers and executives, business owners do for many years, but it just made it so simple. So now when I work with like new clients and all, and they're struggling with this stuff, I just say, go get this book. It'll there you go.
We're big fans.
It will help you along. And I don't know, maybe I'm costing myself some consulting work, but I always recommend it. But what I like about EOS system is it ensures everything is simple, that it's transparent, that it holds people accountable, helps you focus on the right things. And my favorite is it ensures consistent meetings. A lot of windows going on here. But over the years, what I noticed when I first started working with SharePoint, gosh, back in 2004, even before 365 was a thing, I recognized and saw the hardships that managers faced with their strategic information. They would have their mission and vision in one spot and their long-term goals in another. And then over here, their short-term goals, nothing tied together as different Excel spreadsheets or Word documents, if they even got that far. Their metrics and scorecards, if they had them out in front of people at all, it was these big, complex, convoluted metrics that took scores of people together, and they couldn't quickly see how their business was doing. And then issues, if they tracked those at all, they were over in another Excel file or sticky notes or whatever. And they tracked their tasks over here on this side. And we track tasks over there too. Microsoft, as you'll see in a little bit, is doing a great job consolidating task tracking. But what I've seen for decades is business owners and managers and executives, it's like herding cats. They don't feel like they have control of their business. They may be doing the right things with goal setting and visions and missions and all that, but they're not out in front, available to people. That's where 365 comes in. So when you're tracking these things, like I said, I've done Microsoft products for years, or trying to get a window out of the way here. But when you're tracking your strategic business management information, you've got multiple options. First of all, you've got what I've seen too many people doing is the cobbled together homegrown Microsoft Office type things with spreadsheets, emails, and other things. And I've got news for everybody. While Outlook, Excel spreadsheets, email, those serve a purpose for sure, but that's so 1990s. There are, for the most part, better ways to do things in this day and age. Always going to be a spot for those tools, but when it comes for people working together, those are not the best solutions. I've seen this with asset management, with EOS, with other things that you can get specialty software out there, and this stuff is very powerful software. It will get the job done, but sometimes it's out of the price range of smaller businesses or whatever, but it's out there. When I was in the corporate world, we had this one asset management, work management program, and it was great, but it took so much training to get people to using it effectively. And sometimes there were modules that managers hated, but it was all rolled into one. And we used SharePoint for years to actually build those modules outside of that sanctioned software because it was just more user friendly. We could customize it more. And our topic today is, what about using 365 to manage your higher level strategic information? So I did a little comparison of specialty software versus 365. The specialty software, the pros are just start paying a monthly fee and you're good to go. Awesome for a quick start. And there are some out there that do a great job that are designed specifically for EOS. The cons are you have monthly costs that go on and on. The asset manager program. Oh, by the way, next month we're going to cover work management, doing that with 365 and this really cool process that I learned in the corporate world called a barrier process. So come back and look at that next month. If
nice sales pitch, Arnie.
there you go. I'm getting better. Work management, anytime you assign work to especially hourly workers, even office workers, next month is for you. But regardless, the specialty softwares are often not highly customizable. Sometimes they are, but then you got to have someone who knows how to do it. And also they have a different interface sometimes than what employees are used to. They're getting better every year, but still people are used to Microsoft. So Microsoft 365, the pros are it's available to all employees with no monthly cost. Now, you see, I have an asterisk there, and that's if you're already paying for 365, which a majority of companies, I don't know that for a fact, but I think it's true. Most companies are using 365 and many who are not.
I think with the pandemic, Arnie, everybody has pushed on it to get to the video feature. So I think it's a safe bet.
Yeah, and it's created a whole lot of clients for us because they suddenly have this awesome software and they suspect it can do so much, but they've never gotten past the video. So that's why we're here. So it's a Microsoft product, not much learning curve, kind of the inverse of the specialty, and it integrates with other Microsoft products. Microsoft's doing an awesome job making all their apps dovetail together. And the cons are, you have to have someone in-house or bring in someone to create it from the start. But going back to the pros, once it's built, once it's working, it will work forever. So there's no monthly cost ongoing. So there's kind of a flip side to that con as well. And I just made a little chart here. I just used some numbers that I had available. It would vary depending on numbers of employees and such, because it is a monthly cost. But I wanted to get the concept that, it may take lots of effort, a good amount of money, depending on what you're doing. I just threw out a number, but regardless, you pay at one time as your lifetime cost for that solution. Whereas any specialty software, if it's a monthly fee, yes, you can get into it cheap, but over time it goes up. And I had to stop the chart somewhere, but that just keeps going up. So using 365 to manage your business, again, you don't have to be using EOS, although, if you have no good system, go get that book and learn a good system. But regardless, you got to manage your strategic information. My mouse quit working. There we go. So here's an example of what you can do in 365. And, if you're doing a good job running your business, you start with your long-term goals. You, in this case, come up with your 3-year goals. And this is, by the way, is for a fictional company. My wife and I live on a small play farm, and I just thought, okay, there's our company. I need a prototype. So yeah, what you see in here is just essentially us running our household in our little farm. So 3-year goals are here, but then you can also have your annual goals, which roll up under those 3-year goals. They can be tied together so you can see what annual goals go with what 3-year goals to help you get to the 3-year inspiration that you have. if go back to here, you look over there, what about the sixth column? You can see what 3-year goal is associated with each one. And then the bottom one is just a goal, an annual goal that doesn't tie to a 3-year goal. So then likewise, just as the annual goals roll into the 3-year goals, the next step, if you're managing your company, is your quarterly goals. If you use an EOS, it's rocks. That's the term in the book, but that's the next step. And I think we all have a gut feeling this is true, but the traction book talks about, 90 days is the maximum that people can stay focused on a goal and hit it out of the park. So if you're doing EOS, those are rocks. Since not all of our clients are EOS, I just call them quarterly goals in our prototype. And you can see some conditional formatting and some progress bars here in the second and third columns. I'll show a little bit more about the views when I give a tour at the end of this.
And feel free, if you already are starting to have questions, enter them in the chat, because we definitely are here to help. So.
Okay, thanks, Jan. So that's one view of the quarterly goals. It's a current 90-day or quarterly goal summary. You can see how the words are interchangeable. And in SharePoint in 365, all of this terminology can be changed to match whatever your local terminology is. Those are just things that I chose to call them. Here's another view of the quarterly goals, and you can see that they are rolled up under their associated annual goals being in red. And here is another view of that exact same information. You can't do this easily with Excel. We can't do it at all with Excel, I don't think, unless you're using macros or such. And who has people who can sit around writing macros? In 365, it's simple to just slice and dice this information many different ways. So in this case, you can see over here my current goals. So it filtered through that large list and narrowed it down to where I only see mine, which it's nice to hide the clutter so I can focus. And here are the issues and opportunities. This is one of my favorites because if you're like me, the issues and opportunities pop into your head at 1:30 in the morning when you wake up to let the dog outside or something. It just a burst of inspiration or something that keeps you awake at night. I can grab the phone by the night on the nightstand and I can one tap and I'm into my issues list and I can enter a new issue just to offload it from my brain so I can get back to sleep once the dog finally gets done. And then here's an accountability list. In my old corporate days, we used a lot what was called a RACI matrix, RACI. This is kind of a watered down RACI matrix because I don't think in small businesses, you often don't need the full blown RACI matrix, but you can see here is the process that you need to make people accountable for and a description. And oops. Accidentally hit the mouse. Where did it go? Here we go. So you can see who performs the role. Well, in this case, it's me. In this case, it's my wife. And then also from the RACI matrix, you don't have just who does the work, but who is accountable. In other words, who perhaps is a management person who signs off on it and makes sure it's being done well, maybe performs evaluations. And here's one thing we have changed over time. In the early days, I used SharePoint to track tasks for work groups, and it does an awesome job. It's highly customizable. In this case, you can see I have tasks associated with goals, lots of interaction with other information. You could do cool things like highlight them red if they're overdue. But now when I work with clients, even though I'm the world's biggest SharePoint fan, I will say, unless we've got a good reason, let's not use SharePoint for tasks, let's use Planner. So great way to track your action items, your tasks. And it integrates very well with Outlook and To Do that Microsoft is designing them to work better. Remember the illustrations I had earlier where tasks are kept here, tasks are kept there, and those days are long past if you use Task Planner well. So my all-time favorite thing about 365 and SharePoint is you can aggregate information from many different places. So I've built these for years, bringing all this stuff together on dashboards. But in this case, mission vision page, or if you use EOS, the VTO page, it's just it's kind of a dashboard. How is our business doing? I have used probably since 2004, 2005, used SharePoint pages to run meetings. It helps. It reduces the time that your admin assistants or staff members have to gather information. It aggregates it and has it right in front of you.
Arnie, we just finalized a case study with a client using these tools, and the COO who was managing really all of it went from 66, I think it was 66 hours down to 6 hours every time, some huge job. So just consolidating your information, easy access makes a huge difference.
Right. Well, I pretty much created my own job in the corporate world because, I was doing business consulting, and when I saw what SharePoint could do, especially when combined with the other tools, I started doing it, and it was so popular that I had no choice. I had to either do that or, well, that's what I wanted to do. So it was fun. But I guarantee you, once your staff people see what 365 can do, especially things like these SharePoint dashboards, you will have a lot of work to do if you're the person doing it or ordering it from outside sources. So another thing we've added to our strategic management is staff member meeting pre-work. I will show that shortly, but your staff members can prepare all of their information for the meeting from a single page, from a single dashboard. And project meeting pre-work, kind of the same as a previous one, but if you have project update meetings, those are easily done. And I lost my, bear with
Arnie,
me.
you're having issues today.
Well, it all came from having to go from Princeton, Indiana, my conference room, to Philadelphia. It's quite a scramble in one morning. So anyway, bear with me, even though I'm not technically with it today. So I think I'm probably running a little short on time. I'm going to go fairly fast. Here's an example. One thing that we do whenever we build out strategical business EOS type things for clients is you got to have a place to put all this stuff. So we say, while we're at it, let's have our intranet homepage. So SharePoint just hits it out of the park. If you customize it to match your business, no matter how small your business, you can have a fancy intranet page and impress your new employees that, hey, I want to work for these people. They've got it going on. So also, and I couldn't navigate to those. I'm going to go back here just a second. You can have, there we go. The navigation is in SharePoint 365. Microsoft knows what people need, so it's all that easy. But just for time's sake, and because I'm going through this so fast, I don't trust the internet usually on its performance. So here is the vision and roadmap, highly customizable. You can make it match Traction EOS. You can make it match whatever your personal preference is. Accountability. You've got that accountability list that I showed earlier, by the way. You can click on here. In this case, I have it grouped by department. If you don't like that as a manager, we can make it show something else. And then the org chart 365 does a lot of people do org charts in Excel. They do them in Visio. They do them in Word. I've seen them in Word. Microsoft is giving you a tool to do that in 365. So, and I do need to reverse this. My wife is actually in charge. So I did this real quick last week just for this webinar. So yeah, my wife will be getting promoted soon. And then here is the example of meeting page. I made this one match the EOS because I really like it. So you've got your opening, and as you're going through your meeting, you can you can, let's just click here. Here's why I usually have the tabs open. It's because the internet sometimes doesn't go as fast as I want. Come on. Well, if it were coming up fast, I really did have a scorecard there that is just simply Excel based, and now I've lost everything. Oh, okay. But I left the Power BI, and while we're waiting on this to show up, I love Power BI.
Another Microsoft tool.
Yeah, and my Excel spreadsheet, for whatever reason, is there. We go. There we go. This one kind of matches the traction book a little bit, but I like this one because it's so simple, and you can quickly, you can put conditional formatting and stuff. Most companies have an Excel guru that can just hit this one out of the park. But also, I think this is too complex for a meeting. You'll get stuck down the rabbit hole and spend too much time on it. But that's an example of a Power BI, and I can see, well, how much ash firewood do I have, and it changes. That's really cool. But if you're running a fast meeting, don't go there. And then quarterly goals, customer headlines, tasks. I did have this called up earlier. This shows the SharePoint list. I'm going to show both of them. And then here's the planner. You got some really cool overviews, and here's tasks by assignment. But you can go down the page to run your meetings. And here's the one that gives you a little taste of next month's webinar. And if you go and look at 4 of our previous 5 webinars, you will see a lot more about managing projects with 365. But you can roll it all into your meeting agenda. And I know this is not EOS pure, but in our business projects, we're project focused. And as a manager, I want to cover projects in my weekly meetings. So SharePoint's customizable. You can make it happen. And then you go through your issues and opportunities and so on. And then you can also, rather than just rate the meeting, we've got a handy little tool here that where you can rate the meeting right from this agenda web page. So that's a new spin that we've added in the last couple months. So like the weekly meeting, you've got a quarterly meeting agenda page, you've got an annual page. Here's the pre-work page I talked about. So here's the instructions in about this page. I'm going really fast. Sorry about that, but we want to save time for questions and answers. So I could go in here and update all my tasks in one place. That's great because you don't want people having to jump around. You want them to just go to this page and update what they're responsible for. So if I click this, it would open up that Excel file. And by the way, that scorecard can be edited right here on this page. You don't have to go chase down the Excel spreadsheet. So again, I apologize for going so fast, but here's the last thing I want to show. So this is in SharePoint, of course, and I just chose quarterly goals or rocks if you use an EOS. You can't do this in Excel. SharePoint allows you to have almost an infinite number of canned pre-built views. So no matter what your role is, you can click on one of these, and if I want to see a by department summary, it refreshes the page, and right there is by departments if we've assigned the quarterly goals to departments.
Arnie, did you say you can do this in Excel?
There are some Excel rocket scientists out there that I'm sure can build.
Oh, okay.
That I would think could build macros and such, but you want those folks doing other things. SharePoint, SharePoint does it much more quickly than you can do in Excel. So if I want to see only my quarterly goals, I click there and it filters out all of those that I shoved off on my wife and just the ones I'm responsible for. So bottom line of that, highly digestible information. Your strategic information can be highly digestible, highly visible, highly editable on all of these pages. So with that said, I'm going to hand it back over to Jan.
Awesome. Thanks, Arnie. So super fun. Kelly, who has her camera open, was actually my aerobics instructor in Oregon, like over 10 years ago. So it's so fun to see who's finding our webinars, showing up. So it's awesome. Go ahead, Arnie, you can go to the next one. So I'm going to just do a quick explanation of kind of who we are, what we do, because people are always like, wait, who's Arnie and who's Jan? And so I have amassed an amazing team of Microsoft 365 experts, and we all play a part at a different point in that process. This is the roadmap that we put together. Our ultimate goal is to help companies run more efficiently. And so often companies will come to us and say, hey, we want to start using one of these apps, and we realize that their foundation is really cracked and they need to really shore that up. So very often we're starting at the beginning of this workflow and going to the end. So assess is really peek under the hood, look at your compliance, security, how your data is set up, get that information migrated over, get everything migrated over. That's a whole team that works on that within the CTC group. In the optimized camp, we have wonderful people like Nancy and Arnie who are assisting with understanding the apps at a deeper level and training and doing business process improvement work. And ultimately our goal though is really to be very project-based and to transition the whole system back over to the client. So you're not dependent on us. So that's our model. I mean, part of our secret sauce is really this little flow here. It's an iterative process, but we've really figured out, I think, the secret sauce on how to really train people to ultimately get adoption of the software. It starts with what we call rules of engagement. There's a million different ways to do everything in Microsoft 365. It can be very frustrating if you're not an expert, and you can go down a lot of bad rabbit holes. So we really provide a lot of guidance around typically best way to use the tools and ultimately get companies to define that and then roll that out as a kind of an operating model for that particular company. And that's kind of our process to really ensure full adoption, because software is nothing if people don't actually use it. So on that note, we'll go, oh yes, a reminder again, and I'll enter into chat those links again. So the session next month is cost-effective work management solutions or asset management systems. There's lots of different terms people use for this. That'll be a really interesting one. We have really a lot of demand for that sort of software right now, or development right now. And I think then we're open for Q&A. So in the chat, again, are all the links if you want to sign up to the webinar, sign up for the next, or sign up, I can't talk. You want to sign up for our newsletter, sign up for the next webinar, et cetera. So perfect. There were no questions in the chat so far, but anybody is welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can enter it in now, or maybe I missed it, but I didn't see any questions come through. So. And if there's no questions, it's totally fine, but we're here to answer any questions.
I have so many questions, I don't know where to start. Like, because I've been using SharePoint only for maybe 6 months, and I love it. Like, I'm so excited about what it can do and what the possibilities are. So it was fun to see some of the things you've done, because I love like a Gantt chart, and I love the way that you put the goals and broke it down and stuff. So I mean, I would just love to learn like specifically how to do that. I'm also interested in like how you use Planner, because I tried it for a while and I just couldn't, I don't know, I guess I didn't really know the right way to do it. So I ended up stopping, and then I had someone create kind of a basic task list for me in SharePoint instead. And so, and then you were saying
this is a 45-minute strength workout. I'm Michael Hildebrand.
Oh, sorry, I got weird background noise. So anyway, I'm curious, like, why Planner versus you know, putting it in SharePoint. Anyway, that was a lot of questions.
Well, and you're hearing this, like I said, from a 20-year fan of SharePoint.
Yeah.
SharePoint can do an awesome job on tracking tasks. The major drawback, however, is it does not integrate with Planner, To Do, or Outlook. Whereas if you use Planner, and I encourage you to hang in there on Planner. I hated it at first. I actually, you know, I had a eureka moment where I said, you know what, get off the SharePoint bus at this point, because there are times still for SharePoint for task management, but I can see the trajectory of Microsoft's strategy and development, and they're going all in on Planner, To Do, Outlook, and everything going together. And I will be super enthused if they then roll SharePoint into that mix, because I still love using SharePoint for task management, but the benefits of having it integrate with all the other ways that people receive and assign themselves tasks makes toughing it out until you become a fan of Planner. Now,
go ahead, Arnie, finish your thought.
I was going to say, I have also seen, going back to EOS, I have seen a lot of companies trying to manage their rocks and issues and tasks all in Planner. Don't go there. Planner's not made for doing that. Planner is made for tracking your tasks.
Yeah, Arnie, I was just going to add, Kelly. So if you don't know the history, Planner is a dumbed down version of Microsoft Project. And so it was a way of really competing with, I'm going to say, like Basecamp, Monday.com, a lot of those other like simple project management tools. So that was Microsoft's version. It's a great tool. It's not always as intuitive to understand, but it is a great place to start. And so if you can actually use Planner to do whatever your business issue is to solve that problem, you want to do that. But if you can't, then SharePoint is off in the next step, or the integration of the two.
Okay, so one more question. So I have a company that I work with with 365, but more like support kind of things. But they've been helping a little bit with getting some things set up. But they are talking to me about possibly creating a CRM for me in SharePoint. Does that make sense? Because I have a different CRM that doesn't integrate well with everything. And so I was hoping that if I could somehow do a CRM within 365, that would be cool.
I'll answer my question, and then Arnie or Nancy, if you want to chime. So yeah, Microsoft has Dynamics. That is their CRM, which is fully integrated. Traditionally, it's been kind of a big beast. I think they've come up with more simplified, maybe versions of it. Our team member that's an expert on that tool is not on the call right now. But the other thing though is CRMs do so many different things. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. If you're just tracking like notes for clients, it could be something you're doing in SharePoint. It could be something you're doing in OneNote. If you're trying to track reminders, again, there's lots of different options. That's again, part of the confusing thing is there's a lot of different ways. But Kelly, I'd be happy to talk to you offline to kind of say what are your actual needs, and then we could guide you.
Yeah, because we did look into Dynamics. We actually had somebody kind of looking into creating it for us. And it just, like you said, it was just such a beast. And, there are only 10 of us, like under 10 of us. So it just was too much. And that wasn't going to work.
I think if my teamer that's an expert on it was on, he'd probably say differently and he'd say, go for it. But my experience is it's probably too big for that size of a company. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Jill, you turned your camera on. Nice to see you. I don't know if you had a question or not.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the same lines that Kelly was asking. So I'm a little confused on when the tasks are managed in Planner, then how that relates to when you're running the meeting in SharePoint, correct? So how do you then, what if you need to, I'm assuming tasks are the to-dos of Bloom Growth or traction tools. So how does that relate when can you then assign those to-dos even? That's what I don't quite understand, the connection between SharePoint and Planner.
Okay, well, they're two separate apps, but like almost all the Microsoft tools now, they play well together. And if you're running your meeting on a SharePoint page, as I demonstrated, tasks can be implanted onto SharePoint and it's completely functional. So you can assign tasks and not leave that SharePoint meeting page.
But the tasks still really reside in Planner?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they integrate, Jill, if I remember correctly from years ago working with you all, that was one of the debates we had, right? You've got a way of tracking to-dos outside of EOS, and then you've got now your EOS to-dos. That's the magic of this, is it allows an individual to pull information, all their to-dos, whether EOS or any operating system, management system, and random to-dos together. Because one of the biggest challenges we're seeing from a productivity standpoint is people are not organized and they have 20 different places for everything. So that's why we designed a system to organize all your to-dos in one place, whether they're coming from, a management system or non-management system.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Jan and Arnie, this is Lorraine Harden. Thank you so much. This was so helpful. I'm actually an EOS implementer. And I got
Yay.
to this webinar and I'm so glad that I did. Because I have a lot of clients that, you know, struggle a little bit with, should I use 90? Should I use this? Should I use that? And so this looks like an amazing alternative for clients. Quick question about what level of effort does it take to get up and running? Let's say that you are running on EOS, you follow it relatively purely, and about how long does that take to assist a client in getting up and running?
Arnie, I'd say it depends on the levels, Lorraine. So first of all, welcome, and we're thrilled that you're here. Big fan of EOS, as you can tell. It depends on what companies are asking for. So we've built out solutions where they're just wanting to track rocks and goals. We've built it out where we integrate it into the Teams environment, and so they have channels set up. Some companies want every bell and whistle, so it varies. But Arnie, would you say somewhere between like 3 to 4 or 5 months, somewhere in there?
No, not,
Okay.
the integrating it into Teams, generally we have that as a kind of an add-on, highly
Yeah.
encouraged, because Teams is where you want your people working.
Mhm.
But to get someone up and going to where they could actually run their meetings with SharePoint. We have one client right now who needed it by May. We got about 7 weeks notice, and it was ready to go within a week so that they could start playing with it. So we had no trouble meeting the 6-week deadline. It depends on my availability, but most people don't need to get it up and going that fast. But you're an implementer, so cool. First implementer I've met in person. So, yeah, I saw that, and chances are you're working with clients, you want to get them going right away. So
Yeah. You
I'm
guys
hoping
talked about adoption for the technology, and we have the same need from an EOS perspective. You want to make sure that the entire leadership team is in adoption mode, and we want to make it as easy for them as possible. And the tools help that tremendously.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm working on speeding it up all the time, but and as far as a
clients
learning,
right now for Arnie.
yeah, as far as a learning curve, there's not much, because it is Microsoft, and unfortunately most people's experience with SharePoint is minimal. They stored files there, and chances are they didn't store files there very well, and nobody can find anything. That's not a SharePoint issue. That's a poor rollout issue. Planner people have even less experience, but they're so simple that an afternoon of showing it to them, or just teaching one person on staff how to edit their information, it's so intuitive.
Well, excellent.
Well, let's put it this way: it's super easy, but not always intuitive. So that's what I mean.
Yes.
So a little bit of demonstration, and they're off and running.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, Lorraine. Questions? Anyone else? We have probably a minute left. If anybody else has a question. You can tell we love what we do. We're super psyched about it. It's a powerful suite of tools, and it solves so many productivity issues. So. All right. I think we'll log off, but thanks everyone for being here. We appreciate it. See you next month, and go check out our past webinars. So good to see everyone.